Hey folks, I'm attorney Roger P. Foley, and I'm going to tell you a story about a case, and I'm going to ask you what you think about it. So, this gentleman is working at a club. He is one of the bouncers. He's a security guard, and he works with 3 other guys for security for this club. There's a manager, bartenders, all that kind of stuff. But it's a place that after hours, it's more than a bar. It turns into like a dance club, and there's probably about 2,000 people there. So on this particular Friday night, this gentleman is sitting at the door. He's got a chair, not allowed to drink on duty, and he's drinking a Coca-Cola. A buddy of his comes in from the Coast Guard to say what's up, to visit, and he brings along a friend. And what the bouncer does is he sets up 2 chairs right next to him, because as you enter this club, it's like a makeshift hallway for about, let's say, 10 yards, 30 feet. And as you walk in the door, you walk about 10, 15, 20 feet. And that's where the bouncer's sitting. And after he IDs people, they can go into the bar area, which is on the first floor, which is quite large. Or they can also go past him and up a stairs or upper elevator as well, and go to the second floor of the club, which definitely gets busy as the hours go by. So on this particular Friday night, the bouncer, his 2 buddies are sitting at the front, they're chatting, and the bouncer's doing his job. As people come in, ID please, and they hands them the ID. He checks to make sure that they're over 21, and they're allowed in. There's not even a cover fee that evening. So, or the cover fee doesn't start till midnight or something. So a couple people come in here or there, and he IDs them, and they check out and they walk in. Now, keep in mind, there's also an entrance exit at the back of the club where there's also a bouncer security guy there. So the bouncer that we're talking about, he's sitting at the front door. A guy comes in with 2 girls, and as they're approaching, he says, "May I see your ID, please?" Now the girls stop, but the guy keeps walking. So the bouncer, still sitting in his chair, says, "Sir, I need your ID." And the guy comes back to the bouncer, and he's wordy. He's like, "And if I don't give you my ID?" And the bouncer's not particularly anxious or anything. He goes, "Well, then you won't be able to come in." And then this guy, that patron that's come into the club, starts saying things like, "Buddy, I'll just kick your ass and do what I want to do." And then makes a comment about, "You shouldn't be drinking on duty, should you?" And then the security guard says, "You know what? Now you can't come in. So I don't need your ID. Just exit the door, please." And the girl's like, "But we wanted to come in." And the guy, he goes, "Dude, I'll kick your ass." And the bouncer security guard simply says, "Well, I get off at 4. I park in the back lot. Be happy to meet you after 4 o'clock. And the patron is yap, 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 talking about how he'll beat him up so bad and that kind of thing. And the bouncer is drinking his Coke, just sitting there, His arm is actually kind of folded under his arm like this because he drinks his Coke. He grabs an ID, looks at it, you know, just kind of in a relaxed mode, right? So you can say. Suddenly, the patron stops talking and throws punches, throws 2, 3, 4 punches at the bouncer, and the bouncer kind of moves. He's not in the best position because he's sitting there like this, right? You know, like this. So the Coke falls and the bouncer gets hit off the side of the face. He kind of does one of these to try to avoid the punches, but he still gets hit. And he gets up. And as I said, when you walk in, it's like a makeshift hallway. So just think of a hallway that's maybe, I don't know, no more than 5 feet wide right there. Well, the bouncer, security guard, starts punching back. And he has some experience in fighting. He's a boxer. Fights amateur. Throws a bunch of punches, and that individual bounces off the wall, falls down to the ground. The girls scream. They run out. And he looks down, the bouncer looks down at the guy, and he's face down, kind of with his head sideways on the ground. You know, he's knocked out. And then he sees a little bit of blood, and a little bit more blood, and a little bit more blood, and a little bit more blood. And it becomes, from his mouth, his face, a pool of blood that's probably grows to about 3 feet. You know, 3 feet. He gets on his walkie-talkie and he says, calls the other bouncers, I need assistance up at the front. They say, we got to call the manager, and it's done quickly. We're not talking like, hey, you know, hey, I need front, you know, there's a code, you know, 62 front door. And the other bouncers stop what they're doing, and the ones that are free floating, not the guy at the door, free floats right over to the security, sees the guy with blood. Now, the two guys that were with the bouncer, they're standing up, and obviously they're concerned. And one guy, well, they're both from the Coast Guard. So manager gets on the phone, and he's calling 911, he's calling EMT, you know, whatever. And one of the questions that the manager is asked is the guy breathing? And one of the Coast Guard guys, like, he, you know, the manager yells, oh, is he breathing? And the Coast Guard guy runs over to him, and the manager goes, no, stop, don't touch him, don't touch him. And the Coast Guard goes, the hell with that. And he checks him, and he's not breathing. Now, scary moment, right? He's not bleeding. The two girls have run out of the thing. People are coming in the door, wanting to step over the guy, as crazy as that may sound, you know, typical. And the Coast Guard guy starts putting him into a proper position to clear his airway so he can do mouth to mouth, so we can resuscitate him, because the guy has now stopped breathing and he's turning blue. As he clears him, and right before he's about to do CPR, the guy like that, so he starts to breathe on his own without the CPR. And what it was a matter of clearing his passageways, right? I guess, you know, something had happened, and the blood was blocking his nasal cavity, his air pipe. And when the Coast Guard guy did this, it cleared the path, and the guy was able to breathe. Now, still wasn't moving, and he was still unconscious. So EMTs come in, they check him, they put him on, they do a sternum rub. The guy's not waking up. Police are on scene. They're asking, you know, what happened, who saw it, and, you know, it's basically the bouncer. Now, the Coast Guard guys, they didn't want to really be involved, and you can imagine why, because if you're in the military, an alcohol-related incident, whether you're involved or not, you kind of don't want to be at bars and clubs per se when you're in the Coast Guard, or you're in any, you know, branch service. So they said, hey, try to keep us out of it, dude, if we have to, but try to keep us out of it. So the security guard goes, yeah, it was me. The guy swung at me. I was drinking a Coke. The Coke spilled. I threw punches back. He fell down, and that's what happened. And other bouncers, ran up, quite quickly. They saw what was happening, kind of thing. And so they start interviewing people. They start clearing out the club, and they take a report, and the guy's in the hospital. And it turns out a couple days later, the manager relays, hey, the guy's still in the hospital. He's got complications. Police want to meet with, detectives want to meet with the bouncer. Now, what would I tell you guys, right? What would I tell you all? Don't talk, lawyer up. But what did this guy do? He talked. He said, okay, I'll meet you. And they met him at the club the following Wednesday afternoon. They asked him some questions. They asked him basically the same story, good cop, bad cop kind of mentality. And he answers all of their questions. He explains that there were 2 girls that came with him, that their club didn't have a camera at that door. There was a camera at the back door, but at that door where the incident happened, there was no camera. They interviewed the manager. They interviewed the other security guards. And they said, okay, we'd like to, we're doing some investigation. The guy's in the hospital, and they tell the bouncer and the manager that he's got several fractures in his orbital bones, his left orbital, his cheekbone, his forehead have fractures. He's having to undergo surgery. He's going to be in the hospital for a while. He's just regained consciousness after a couple of days. Obviously quite serious. And the cops, ask, where do you live, and all that kind of stuff. And they go through and they say, all right, we're gonna meet with you Friday. They do an investigation, and they come back, and the bouncer's not sure what's gonna happen. He's thinking, again, he still has not called law enforcement. I mean, he still hasn't called an attorney to help him. He still hasn't really told anybody about it. The only people who know about it is work. He doesn't even tell his own family about it. The cops show up on Friday to talk to him again. And this time, while they're talking to him, they say, are you ready for your fight next Saturday? And the guy's like, huh? He's like, yeah, we know you box. We know that you're an amateur boxer. We know Coach Carter, your boxing coach. We know the PAL that you box at. And, we got real concerns about this case. And of course, the guy's, he's sweating. He's thinking, all right, they're going to arrest me. This guy's in bad shape. What kind of felonies am I going to be charged with, that kind of thing. And the detectives say, I'm going to tell you a story. And the detectives proceed to tell the security guard story. And they say that there's this guy who's bar hopping between several clubs on that street. And right before he goes into his club, right, the security guard's club, that he meets these 2 girls out on the street. Doesn't really know them, just, hey, I'm going in this club, you want to go in with me, I'll buy you a drink, that kind of thing. And right before they walk in the door, this guy says, watch me beat the shit out of this bouncer. And the girls are kind of like, huh? And they're thinking maybe they know the guy. Maybe that, like, this guy who's saying, I'll buy you a drink and watch me kick the shit out of this bouncer, maybe, it's just a ploy the guys, but then all of a sudden this argument happens, and the guy starts punching at the bouncer, and the bouncer gets up and punches back. And next thing you know, this guy that they just met is covered in blood, and they run away. And the police go on to tell this bouncer that the reason why they're not arresting him is because the other clubs do have cameras. And they saw this guy go into several clubs, saw him being a jerk, saw him kicked out of a club, see him talking with the girls. They see the girls, and our other people in the club are able to identify the girls. They meet the girls, they hear this story, and Roger Foley, you can fight next Saturday at your tournament. We're not going to arrest you. That happened many years ago, folks, before I became an attorney. My life could have forever been changed. Do I respect police officers? I do. Do I trust all of them? No. Back then, those two police officers, they came through for me. They did the proper investigation. I wasn't arrested. I didn't go to prison. I didn't have to go to trial. I never even hired an attorney, and it worked out. But unfortunately, folks, it doesn't always happen that way. I'm attorney Roger P. Foley. If you didn't know, now you know.